What's up, guys? Here's my review of the Mr. Heater 80,000 BTU convectional space heater. Generally, these space heaters are used for pole barns, not really interior because of the amount of heat that this thing can produce. If you're wanting to heat an inside, like the inside of your home, I would go with a kerosene heater. But anyways, this isn't about a kerosene versus propane. I decided to go ahead and buy a propane heater for my pole barn because it was just going to be easier to store. This thing can be stowed away. And then also here, if you look down here, these little notches can actually pull out, and the heater can actually collapse down and it can be easily stored. Unlike a big kerosene heater, which is on wheels, it's a lot wider, and then you actually have to have space to try to store that. So that's why I chose the propane. The propane will use up more fuel than a kerosene heater, but that's really not an issue or concern with me. I think I'm going to go ahead and buy another propane tank anyways, so that I'll have a spare tank for heating the barn. So to light the propane heater, come over here. Crack the gas. Actually, it was already cracked earlier this morning when I was testing it. And I do have a gauge here, so it's a good idea to have a little gauge for your propane tank so you know how much is actually in there. So to ignite the fuel here, the heater, you're just going to push in, turn the knob, you'll hear the gas, turn it to the left, and you'll hear a click, and it ignites, and just hold it there for probably 5 seconds. Then you can let go. Well, this one actually went out, so we'll redo that. Hold it in, turn to the left, and then release. Now, right now, the heater is actually set at the, I believe, low settings, 30,000 BTU. And then I'll show you, we can crank it up to the 80,000 BTU. Really, really easy to adjust. So right there, it's cranking out some heat. So I generally keep my heater level down to the minimum. And I will say this, the amount of BTUs is generally dependent on the size of your space. So if you have a small garage, a 10 by 20 or something with a low ceiling height, then you probably want to keep it at the lower level of BTUs. I generally keep mine at the lower level BTUs because this thing puts out so much heat. It's pretty crazy. And it also has less fuel consumption. But I will show you my barn here. My barn's a 10 or 20 by 30, 15 foot to the peak. So if this gives you any idea on what type of heating system you need, especially a portable heating system, this will give you a good idea. There's also a calculator to determine how much heat and fuel you'll need for a convectional propane heater, and they have calculators online. So I generally keep mine at the low end, just for, like I said, better fuel consumption, or does not burn as much fuel than it does at the 80,000. But I will come over here and we'll do a documentation on the temperature in my barn right now. So the barn currently is 35 degrees. So I'll go ahead and set my timer. So as you can see, the lap time, this is my Garmin watch, so I basically just set it in run mode. And then this will document how much time it takes to get to a certain temperature with a barn that is 20 by 30 with 15 foot to the peak. It's going to be a generalization. So just depending on your barn and what type of insulation you have is a big thing. So I do have an insulated barn here. I don't know what type of insulation it is. I believe it is 1/4 inch insulation throughout. And then I actually did spray foam all up into the corners of my barn, so it actually seals in. And then this also keeps my barn from sweating in the summertime because it's sealed. My barn doesn't sweat anyways. So right now, as you guys saw in my latest videos, I'm doing an engine. I have a 94 Turbo Cobra, so I'm currently doing wheel bearings for the front end, along with Stita ball joints, and these are definitely heavy duty ball joints because my car is lowered, and it's supposed to, they call it recenter or center of gravity for your suspension. You guys will have to just look up the Stita verbiage on that. I forget the verbiage on how this is supposed to realign your suspension when your car is lowered. But anyways, back to the review. So now that I have the timer set, we're gonna really see how long it takes to get to what temperature you need, or just give you a good idea how quickly this heater can get the temperature up in a bigger barn like this. And also, since I have the stopwatch going, it'll really be a good documentation on how long it actually takes. So stay tuned for the next video to show how long it takes to heat up the barn. I may just let it heat up for 20 minutes, and then that'll give you a good idea on how long it takes for another 20 minutes to heat the barn up. I will say this, as far as safety and ventilation, I usually pop open my roll-up door. The manual says, I believe, it needs to have at least 2 feet of ventilation somewhere in your barn, shop, garage. I could open the windows, but I generally just come over here, pop my roll-up door open, and let it sit on the tire, because I believe the tire is pretty close to about 2 feet of ventilation. Now I will say, even if there is ventilation, especially in the wintertime here in Ohio for my barn, and there's quote unquote the ventilation for the propane heater, the cold air actually doesn't overtake the space heater, just to let you know. So once this barn gets pretty heated up, it stays warm even with the ventilation of my roll-up door. So that's another little tip about this. But the manual does say you need some type of ventilation, because I do know, especially with running a kerosene heater in your home, you need to have your windows popped open, because it can consume the oxygen in your space. It doesn't really suck the oxygen out of the air, but a lot of people use that terminology, but it takes the byproduct of what's being burned off the propane or the kerosene heater, and then it pretty much eliminates the oxygen in your space here. So just be aware of that. Always have some type of ventilation. Anyways guys, stay tuned for the next video, and we'll show how long it takes to heat the barn up and to what temperature it got up to. What's going on, guys? This is part 2 of the Mr. Heater conventional propane heater, and I just came back out to my barn to see what type of heat we have in the barn now. So we're gonna walk back over here to where my little stopwatch was. So right now we are at 52 degrees, actually 49 degrees. There's some variances in the sensor here, but you guys get the idea. So my part 1 video, the pole barn was at 35 degrees and it's been 30 minutes. If this gives you any, this will give you any idea on how well your, oh, here we go. I don't know if you saw that, but it went from 49 to 50 degrees. So the pole barn temperature is slowly going up, and I think it's going up pretty quickly. Like I showed you guys before, I'm doing a time lapse. It's about 30 minutes. So you're looking at roughly 15 degrees. I will say roughly 15 degrees in 30-degree weather here in Cincinnati, Ohio. So leading to that, it's only going to get warmer in here. My most comfortable temperature for working on my car is usually in the 50s. So right now it's pretty nice in here. So I'm going to go ahead and crack the roll-up door for my ventilation, and I'm going to go ahead and start working. But again, here's the proof on how long it takes to heat a 20 by 30 pole barn, 15 feet to the peak. This is roughly how long it'll take to heat up the barn in about 30 minutes. So you're looking at about 15 degrees, plus or minus 2 degrees, because the sensor on the thermometer can be a little off sometimes, but there's the proof right there. Hope this helps anybody out who has a space they're trying to heat.